guys? Welcome back to Life on the Wrist. Hope you guys are doing well. Today we're going to be talking about my Memosail. I wanted to do a little bit more of some in-depth videos about this watch because this was really the first vintage watch that I purchased. If you aren't new here, you kind of know that this is a very special watch to me, and I thought I would actually tell you the story about this watch that we gathered before we actually purchased it. One of the things that I'm super focused on when I'm looking at watches, if I'm helping friends buy watches or perhaps looking for one for our website, is that I want to know the history of that specific watch, and also I guess the history of the watch that I'm purchasing, but also where this watch has actually spent its life. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go a little bit in depth into the history of this specific watch that I ended up purchasing. Like I said, I want to do some more in-depth videos about this watch because it is really important to me, but also really was my first vintage watch purchase, and I think there's a lot you can learn from my experience with this watch. I'll also, in the future, I'll probably do a video where I can kind of show you some close-ups of the movement. I do not recommend you open the case backs of your watch, but I think it would be a nice thing to show you what's actually ticking inside of this watch. That's what we're going to be doing today, but before we get into that, if you have not, hit that like button. Don't know why you haven't, but be sure to hit that like button if you like these types of videos. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel because I know that there's a big portion of you out there who have not subscribed to the channel. So be sure to hit that subscribe button as well. So, like I said, this was my first vintage watch purchase. Just to give you a little bit of history about why I ended up buying this watch, I really got into watches, and I really fell in love with blue dials. That was the thing that I really fell in love with. If you don't know, the Rolex 16610 Submariner with the blue dial and bezel, I believe it's a white gold case. That is the watch that I really fell in love with and I absolutely adored. And so what I did was I was really into vintage watches, so I started kind of researching vintage watches with blue dials and ended up stumbling across this watch here, which is a Memosail. This is actually a regatta yacht timer watch that you can use if you are partaking in a regatta. It has a 10-minute counter, so when you start the chronograph, you'll see the chronograph hand moving. What ends up happening is that disc ends up turning and it counts down 10 minutes. At that time, the regatta starts, and you're off to the races then. So when I was researching, like I said, I was researching this watch, found that I really loved the Memosail, and so I decided to reach out to a person who was selling this watch. Sorry, I missed it, but you can see that there's a little bit of red there. The 10-minute counter has now begun. So I reached out to the seller of this watch. The seller was actually located in San Francisco, California, and he had owned this watch his entire life, and he was actually an avid sailor, and he had used this watch in some of the fun regattas that he participated in, and so he wore this watch for some of the regattas and then kind of put it aside when he stopped racing. And so, sorry, just to interrupt my story really quickly, you can see that 1 minute has now passed, and it now shows the 5-minute mark on that inner disc. So here you can see when it turns, it basically turns every 30 seconds. So back to my story. So he wore this, then kind of put it aside and really didn't wear it very much, but he did take care of the movement inside. One of the things that I really loved about this watch is the movement was in really great condition, and so asked for service history, and he obviously could. He provided me with paperwork for all of that, so I felt really confident in buying this. But yeah, this watch spent most of its life in San Francisco, California, and he did a lot of racing in the Bay Area with this watch. One of the things that we actually spoke about, which I thought was kind of interesting when I first purchased it, was the fact that this watch actually it is it doesn't have a screw down crown. The pushers are not screwed down at all, but you're supposed to use it when you're on the water. I thought that was an interesting thing. He also thought it was kind of an interesting thing that Memosail, I guess Memotime, which is the company that produced these, it was part of the eBausch company. Something that they didn't really consider. Now, if you produce anything that's going to be used near water, like a diver or a yacht timer, it's always water resistant. This one didn't have it, which I thought was kind of an interesting little difference. So yeah, this watch came from California. It's now been in my possession for almost 6 years, actually. Yeah, about 6 years I've had this watch, and I haven't really, I don't wear it in regattas or anything like that, but I do. It has been on some really great trips with me, on some of the holidays I've been on, or trips that I've been on. Also wear it almost daily, because I love it so much. And it's funny because when you have a watch like this, like I love wearing it and experiencing it, and then sometimes I wear something else and I kind of lose interest in it. But then recently I've kind of just been focusing in on the dial a little bit more, and I fall in love with it again. So it's an interesting thing to think about. This watch, you know, the owner of this watch previously said he really had a lot of fun with it when he was participating in regattas, because a lot of the times in those regattas people were using some of the competitors, like the skipper. Breitling also had one, a yacht timer that they had produced during the summertime, which was the 70s, 80s. And so this one was always a fun one because it was a different way of displaying the 10-minute counter, which is something that he really enjoyed as well. So yeah, I think this was a perfect combination for me of beautiful blue dial, made me feel like I was on the beach or on the water, which is something that I really I have a passion for. Yeah, that's the kind of the story behind this Memosail. We did release, this was quite kind of during the inception of Life on the Wrist, but we had released a watch story about this 1973 Memotime Memosail. So I will be sure to put a link to that in the description so you can check that out, as well as a video where we kind of show off this watch. I will do a video where you can see the movement of it as well, because I think that's another really cool thing to see with this watch, because I was mesmerized at how great condition it was in as well. So I'll be sure to upload that. I hope you enjoyed this watch story about my Memotime Memosail. Like I said in the beginning of the video, if you haven't already, be sure to smash that like button for this Memosail and for vintage watches in general. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you are new here. And with that said, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video, and until next time.